Hello, Tar Heel Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the UNC Hoops Talk podcast. If you're seeing this in your podcast app or your feed later on, you may be a little surprised because it's been that long again since we've podcast. It's been since April. That's right. We did one off-season podcast and then I flaked out for the summer, I guess. But we are back. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to see who pops in and joins live. I'm excited to hear feedback from people that hear it later. So let me know. I am so glad that you've stuck around and that you are still listening. And please, find me on Twitter, comment on this video, wherever you're doing this. Hit me up and let me know that you're listening. I truly, truly appreciate it. I do want to jump in, but again, just want to thank you guys for all being here. We got a lot to talk about since obviously we haven't podcasted since April. A lot of roster changes, a lot going on. We got announcements about the upcoming schedule. Obviously, we could talk some. I don't know if we'll get into starting lineup quite yet. Um, but yeah, a lot of stuff. Obviously, football. Shout out to the football team. Big win against South Carolina last week. We got Appalachian State tomorrow as I'm recording this. So I guess today or maybe it's happened already if you're listening to this later. But big shout out to the Tar Heels. Obviously, bad news with Tez Walker and the whole NCAA decision. Obviously, this is not a football podcast, so we're not going to jump into that too much. But big heartbreak there for the football team, and hopefully they can keep it going, have a great season though, and we'll obviously be watching and cheering them on. But let's jump into some basketball stuff. So I don't even remember exactly what we talked about, what had happened already, what happened after April. Most of it probably happened after April. So we're going to just kind of run through um, the roster. We'll go through numbers. I know, again, if you're on social media, you've seen this stuff, so we're going to go kind of quickly here. But just to kind of update everybody, we got Zayden High wearing number 1. He's a freshman out of Texas, 6'9" forward. Elliot Cadeau, big time reclass, lots of talk around that, so I'm sure you heard about that, is wearing number 2, freshman out of New Jersey. Cormac Ryan um, is a 6'5" guard who's a graduate transfer out of Notre Dame. Hopefully knock down some threes for us. We got RJ Davis back, obviously. Wearing number 4. Armando Bacot wearing number 5. And so as we're going through, obviously the first 2 were freshmen. They got 4 years. Last year of eligibility for Cormac Ryan. RJ Davis would actually have one more after this year, his COVID year, 5th year, senior, whatever they're calling it, COVID year, I think. Armando, this would be his COVID year, so he will be done after this year. Then we got Seth Trimble with a change in rules here. Guys can now wear any number they want. So I guess it's happened way back when, but first time any of us have seen it. Number 7 for the Tar Heels will be Seth Trimble as a sophomore. Paxton Wojcik, transfer from Brown. Obviously, his dad's on the staff. Number 8, he's a 6'5" guard, graduate chancellor as well, so that'll be his last year of eligibility. Jalen Washington is a sophomore. We've seen him. He'll be wearing number 13. I believe that's the same number, right? I don't think that's a change. Creighton Lebo, number 14, will be a senior. Rob Landry, another legacy player with his dad, along with Lebo as well, and now Wojcik. But Landry will be wearing number 22. Jalen Withers, a transfer from Louisville, will be says here another grad transfer. I feel like it was Harrison Ingram as we get to him, but another grad transfer, Jalen Withers, 6'9" forward, wearing number 24, again from Louisville. James Okonkwo, I don't know if I'll say that right, but transfer out of West Virginia, 6'8" forward. Could probably will be mostly center for us as a junior, so we will have him for an extra year next year, as long as he stays around. Now we know with Tez, you can't transfer twice, so we should have him next year. Dewey Ferris is a grad senior wearing number 34. Did I say James Okonkwo? He's wearing number 32. And then Harrison Ingram wearing number 55, 6'7" forward, transfer out of Stanford. Kind of an interesting one because we were so heavily on him coming out of high school, 5-star guy, um, good stats, decent stats at Stanford, just kind of not the lead guy. A lot of people thought he'd maybe be one and done for sure, two and done. Here he is as a junior, so we'll have him for 2 years as well. So that'll be an interesting one, I think. Obviously, a highly talented, athletic guy, and we'll see how it kind of plays out in UNC. So, like I said, I don't know that I want to get into starting lineups. I don't know when I will want to because that's going to be crazy. I think okay, we're getting into it already. So, I think Armando and RJ are pretty set. I know on Inside Carolina, um, Sherelle McMillan said, you don't recruit a transfer like Harrison Ingram and not start him. So he kind of, and I think he would be in the starter probably as the 4. And now the question obviously is does RJ Davis start as the 1 or the 2? With obviously the highly um, touted, highly talked about reclass of Elliot Cadeau. You kind of expect. Now, what I do say is maybe Elliot doesn't start the beginning of the year, kind of like Kendall Marshall come in as he gets his feet wet a little bit, maybe starts later in the year. But does Elliot start from day one or does he come in later? Um, that kind of depends, or will affect where RJ plays as well, whether he's the 1 or the 2. And then I think you got to play Cormac Ryan. I mean, not that nobody else gets playing time. Well, I guess that's another talking point of the Hubert Davis, but you need his shooting in there. And so that would leave Armando at the 5, Ingram at the 4, Cormac at the 3, RJ at the 2, Elliott at the 1. And then if Elliott doesn't start right away in the season, um, obviously we got, Withers could play the 4 and move Ingram down to the 3 and Cormac to the 2. You also got Jalen Washington in there. As long as he's healthy, he could kind of do the same. So it'll be interesting, very, very interesting as far as who starts. And then again, as the question mark has been, well, both off seasons after that Hubert Davis has kind of had, will he play that bench? Will he commit to it? So we always talk. We got depth, we got guys, and then we haven't seen it. Obviously, we now have guys that have transferred out and gone several different places. I don't think I'll remember all of them, but Puff Johnson's at Penn State, as well as DeMarco Dunn is at Penn State. Styles is in at Georgetown. We got oh man, how quickly we forget everybody's name. But we got the white guy. I can't think of his name now at Virginia Tech. And then I'm sure I'm forgetting some more. Oh, Justin McCoy went to Hawaii. Yeah, and there's probably, I mean, we lost like what, 8 guys or something. So obviously Leaky got drafted. Well, not sorry, didn't get drafted. Signed to a two-way deal with the Hornets. So he's nearby in Charlotte. Um, and yeah, so again, lots happening over the off season. I think next, let's kind of jump into the schedule. So we don't have the full schedule out for the 2023-2024 season. I think we have the entire or sorry, not off season, non-conference schedule. And then obviously what we're missing is who we're playing when, all that. We do know obviously who we play twice, who we play only on the road, who we play only at home. So we'll get through that stuff. But first, the non-conference schedule that we got starts October 27th with an exhibition against St. Augustine. I don't even know where that's out of. And I guess before that, we'll probably have the Hubert Davis Live or whatever they called that last year. I'm assuming that there was supposed to be a blue-white scrimmage. Maybe they won't have the Hubert Davis Live because that, but the blue-white scrimmage was supposed to be an NIL deal for the players. And then again, whatever ruling the NCAA has now says they couldn't do that, and so they canceled it. I guess they could have done it, they just couldn't do it as an NIL deal, and so they canceled that. So we're starting October 27th is a Friday. Obviously in Chapel Hill, it's an exhibition though against St. Augustine, and then the real season opener will be November 6th against Radford. We got November 12th against Lehigh. So that's a Monday, Sunday gap to start. And then we go Sunday to Friday, UC Riverside in Chapel Hill, before we go out to the Bahamas on Thanksgiving weekend. We'll play Northern Iowa in the first round of the Battle for Atlantis, and then we play either Villanova or Texas Tech the following day, the 23rd. Again, out there, depending on if we win and who wins and whatever that game there, and then we finish that up the following day, third game in 3 days, like that, with either Arkansas, Memphis, Michigan, or Stanford. So Arkansas should be pretty good. Memphis, they've gotten some recruits so they can get it together. They could possibly be a good one. Michigan might be not the low. I guess Stanford's probably the worst team out of that, so wouldn't expect to see them. But that would be kind of interesting with obviously seeing Jared Haas, Ingram seeing his former team, but that hopefully doesn't happen because I think that's probably the worst team out of those four, and we shouldn't lose both of ours. I would hope and think. Um, so then we come home from the Bahamas after Thanksgiving. November 29th, we play Tennessee in Chapel Hill. That's the ACC SEC's challenge. Remember, the ACC Big Ten challenge is now gone, and it's the ACC SEC challenge. That's the 29th. And then we follow that up with the Jimmy V Classic in New York at the Madison Square Garden, playing UConn, defending national champs. So that should be, and they got plenty back. That should be a pretty big time game in the Garden. And then we follow that up again, pretty big gap. So there might be maybe an ACC game in the middle of this one now in December. We don't usually get them before December, right? We got some fairly big gaps in there. I feel like we got the whole non-conference schedule, but anyway, between December 5th and then the next game is the CBS Sports Classic against Kentucky and Georgia, December 16th. So, like I said, probably an ACC game gets slid in between the 5th and the 16th there. Um, and then the Jumpman Invitational, man, it's crazy how many of these things, like these they got to name all these non-conference big neutral site games. But the Jumpman Invitational in Charlotte, again, we're playing Oklahoma this time on December 20th. And then we finish up the non-conference December 29th with Charleston Southern in Chapel Hill. So um, we don't have any true road games. We got those three kind of starters with Radford, Lehigh, and our UC Riverside. And then we're at the Bahamas for Northern Iowa, and then depending who we play after that. And then it's Chapel Hill for Tennessee, Madison Square Garden for UConn. We're in Atlanta for the CBS Sports Classic with Kentucky, Charlotte for the Oklahoma game and Jumpman Invitational, and then Charleston Southern at home. So no true road games in the non-conference. That's something we only see from Duke usually. So obviously, then we got the ACC schedule. We know we play Duke, NC State, Clemson, Florida State, Miami, and Syracuse, both home and away. We play Louisville, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest at home, and Boston College, Georgia Tech, Pitt, and Virginia on the road. Um, so, so yeah, that rounds up our our scheduling updates. And so, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting year. I don't know. Somebody else, you guys can kind of let me know again, whether you're here live or listen to this later. But with I don't think it's really NIL. I think it's sorry, I can't even say that tonight. NIL. I don't think that's really the deal breaker, but it's more of the transfers, how many new guys and how many guys we've lost and all this. I just feel like it's harder to be. I don't even know what the right word is. I mean, obviously, I'm still a huge UNC fan, but just as connected as I felt like in the past or something. I don't know if that's again. I don't know if that's the right wording or what it is, but there's just something about all the transfers that it just doesn't feel the same as it has in the past. So hopefully, as we get close to the season, as we get connected to this team and stuff, maybe it's too just. I mean, well, Roy's last year we weren't so bad. We ended up losing one in the first round of the NCAA tournament. The year before that was really bad. So we had that year, and then obviously Hubert's first year, the season was not good. Went on the run in the tournament, and then last year was just so I don't know if it's that, and I'm just being a poor sport or what it is. But I feel like yeah, with the transfers and the new guys, I mean, I used to be a little bit more. Maybe I'm just getting old too. Maybe I'm just the old guy saying, "Get off my yard. I want it back the way it was." I don't know. Um, but I mean, I used to follow recruiting a little. Now it just feels like recruiting isn't that important. We're just going to get transfers instead, and we don't know who's going to play, and I don't know what it is. You guys can tell me if you feel the same way, or if I'm just on the rocker as an old man here. So we do have a few people jumping in here. Grant, good to see you. Says, "Hey Dan, in my mind, this year is a giant question mark. I'm having trouble objectively wondering how this season will go. So many new pieces to the puzzle. I guess we'll have to wait and see." Yeah, maybe that's the case too. Maybe that's what I'm feeling. Is like, I mean, we've said it the last couple of years, right? Like we have the talent, we have the depth. It's all there, but we just don't know if that means anything, because obviously we didn't put it together. We went to the stinking championship game, and then last year dropped from number one to unranked and sat there the whole season and didn't even make the tournament. Um, so maybe that's what making this year harder. I don't know too, but I do feel you, Grant. It's like I want to be positive. I want to say all these nice things, and like we should have it, but can we put it together? So yeah, definitely feel you there. The Nintendo nerd, great to be back. Lots to talk about. Hey, for sure, glad to have you back. He's kind of saying the same thing here. I want to be excited, but I'm reserving judgment until the first real game of the season. I bought into the hype way too much less. Hey, you weren't the only one. We know the feeling, and we were all right there with you. So, uh, yeah. So I guess yeah, that is kind of the question of what do we expect from this year, and like both of them kind of say is like we just have to hold off judgment until we see some more. Again, the big question mark is, will Hubert play his bench? Will we use that talent that we've recruited here? And then obviously again after last year, it's will we gel together? Because um, everybody kind of said it was it Brady Manic? Is that what made us gel together that second half of the season, and obviously through our March run a couple years ago, and then last year, Brady's gone, that didn't happen. So there's something, obviously people are saying, Caleb Love is going to be an addition by subtraction. Oh, he's one, I guess, that, yeah, that I didn't even say that he left. He's went to Michigan. They wouldn't accept his credits into Michigan from North Carolina, and so he is now with Coach Rob in Arizona. That will be interesting to watch, to say the least. Um, but yeah, I mean, will he be a completely different player there? And we're all wishing like, why couldn't we get that Caleb at North Carolina? He definitely said the right things as he was transferring. I want to be coached, and I want to be whatever made better. And so is it that Hubert was too, gave him too much of a green light, didn't get after him enough, didn't coach him enough, and he'll be a different player, or is he going to be the same kind of player? And we're like, yeah, we're better off without that. So that will be intriguing to watch, for sure. But yeah, I mean, that most of the my questions is that's where it comes from. I feel like we got the talent, we got a fifth year Armando Bacot, a fourth year RJ Davis. We got a passing point guard coming in, Elliott, as long as he can get his feet wet and get comfortable, being reclassed. I feel like his mom had said he had reclassed down, and so this is kind of back to his normal class. He's a normal freshman and stuff, but most of the questions is around is like, is Hubert going to play the bench, and can the guys gel together? And that's again another question mark, and maybe that's the problem with this whole transfer era. Um, is how well can you get guys to gel together and play for the right reasons, and um, you know yeah. So that's my questions. Rev is back. Good to see you, man. Along with all of you guys, of course. This has got to be better than last year. If Hubert learning curve is flat, we are in trouble. And yeah, I mean, Grant said this year's a giant question mark in his statement there. But I do think this is kind of a huge year for Hubert and his coaching and what's going to happen going forward. Um, so yeah, I mean, hopefully, you know, he's got Roy in his ear. He's talking to Roy, and obviously the rest of the staff, Sean May, and um, Lebo, and all, Coach Lebo, all those guys on the bench there. Hopefully, they're getting it figured out here, and yeah, that they're willing to adjust and grow in their coaching styles. So, Nintendo Nerd says, I really want to see how Hubert changes and grows. We can't see some of this. We can't see some of the stubbornness we've seen the first two seasons. He truly has his own roster now, so there should be no excuses. Yeah, right there with you. Uh, I felt like even last year. I mean, yes, Caleb and RJ and Armando weren't his guys, but he was on that staff, and I guess if you said last year they weren't his guys, this year you could say that as well. But um, it would have been easy enough to, yeah, replace them or kind of say, "Hey guys, it's time to move along and replace them with your guys if you didn't want them." So, everybody and their grandma said, Hubert is the nicest guy, and I don't doubt it. Now it's, we don't need the nice guy. We need the coach that's gonna come and prove that he knows what he's doing and how to do it and that he can do it. So, um, definitely a big year for him. Big year for Tar Heels, I think. I don't know exactly where we're ranked in a lot of the preseason. I feel like we're what upper teens in some of them that I've seen. Kansas is up there. Duke is high up there. Um, who else is way up there? FAU is a top 5 team with all their guys coming back after a Final Four run. I don't know. Again, I just feel like and again, maybe that's my problem of the excitement or feeling different about college basketball and the Tar Heels is maybe I've just been too disconnected. I don't know what it is. I've obviously been following it and been there and stuff, but um, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know what else you guys want to talk about. You can hit something up here in the chat, and again, if you ever want to join us live on YouTube, if this is your first time, I'm horrible at keeping a schedule. So if you do want to catch it live, go to youtube.com/UNC Hoops Talk, hit the subscribe button, but then also hit the little bell so you get a notification on your phone or on your, whatever, that you can come join us live, because it's definitely sporadic. Obviously, it's been since April, and sorry about that. But yeah, it's kind of what has happened. I've definitely been thinking about it. I've been wanting to, and life has just been crazy. So that's definitely an excuse that we wouldn't accept from a player. So I'm not going to give that one either. But it's all on me. But um, and if you don't care about joining live and just listening, I appreciate that just as much. But any podcast app is just subscribe there and leave a review. You know, welcome those, good or bad. Really, I can take it, and we'll move on, and we'll be okay, and hopefully get better from it. So appreciate everybody being here live, and I don't really know what else we want to talk about. I kind of gone over the big stuff there. Roster changes, updated on our roster schedule as far as we know of. That'll be coming or being updated as we get, obviously, the ACC schedule comes out, and we can go through it more. Um, we can talk some more, starting lineup, but kind of gave my thoughts on that as well. And until we start to see some action, that we can really watch and see, and even the early stuff, sometimes they you know, obviously Roy would play a lot of guys early and then dwindle it down, but at least gave you some idea. I don't know that we get that necessarily the same from Hubert, but we don't always have the same opportunities to see them early anymore as well. So we do need to get a prediction podcast. Trying to remember when we do that normally, and I don't remember what month I usually do it in. So, again, if you're new to the podcast, please subscribe. But also during the off season, normally we do one a month, and then when we get to probably November, I'm not gonna say any earlier than that. But when we get to November, we start trying to do weekly podcasts and update more on the games and how they've been going, how we're feeling. that kind of stuff. And so until then, yeah, like I said, we'll try to be doing monthly podcasts from here on out, which only leaves us, what, it's September, so we got really October. So we'll try to do another one in October. Maybe we'll do two in October to ease us into ramping it up here. Um, but one of those has got to be our predictions podcast. So if you don't know, every year, kind of get it out to you guys to give your predictions, and I'll run through mine. Just a win loss record, how far we'll go into the ACC tournament, how far we'll go into the NCAA tournament, that kind of stuff, and normally it's pretty fun to kind of go back and see how close we were, or where we were right, where we were wrong. Well, I don't know if we worried about it after the couple seasons ago either, when we finally went to the championship game. I feel like I probably did do a recap on that one, but last year, just we don't want to talk about that because obviously we were preseason number one, and we were, all talking Final Fours and stuff like this. Um, and yeah, we don't we didn't want to revisit that. So looking here, last year we did, it says 11 months ago. So that's probably October that we did the predictions podcast. And then we've also a lot of times done a player predictions. So we will kind of go through and talk about what we expect from different guys, which also has been really hard the last couple of years with the lack of playing the bench by Hubert. So uh, we'll get that stuff coming up, though. I guess I'll throw out here, not that should be any reason for you to, but uh, if you ever want to support the podcast, I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/UNC Hoops Talk podcast. Just kind of goes in as far as it covers the hosting and just a little bit of cost that it does have to run the podcast and stuff. So if you're really into it and you're willing to help me support the podcast, I greatly appreciate it. But that's just there. So the Nintendo nerd does ask, do you expect Jalen and Seth to take huge strides for us this season? And again, it's, when you look at the roster, I mean, if Jalen, I think, is more about health. Seth's is going to be more about shooting, probably, unless he just kind of takes that role of best defender. Um, but even that, he's smaller, so it's not like Leaky where he can switch and guard a big wing and still guard a smaller guard, and with his length make it difficult for him. So I would say that's kind of where he can make the biggest difference. But if he can knock down shots, if he's improved his shot, definitely that's a big leap, and we can use that. We need shooting. Withers is supposed to be a shooter. Washington came in as kind of a big. I think wasn't the line that Hubert always said was like the best shooting big that he's seen. Um, Ingram is going to be more of an athletic slasher, not going to be the shooter as much as well. Wojcik, I don't know how much Wojcik's going to play, or they kind of talked about him being um, a leader, that kind of stuff. And I think he can shoot, but I don't know how much time he's going to get. Cormac is I don't know, maybe the big X factor, and if he can knock down the shots like he has or is supposed to, could be the big X factor for this team. But yeah, when you take in, if Elliott and RJ at the guards, Cormac at three, then you got Jalen and you got Withers, and then you got Ingram as well right in there. Um, Obviously, we think Baycot's going to play most of the time at that five. Does Jalen back him up a little bit? Does Okonkwo get all of that? Does Withers play a little bit? Small ball five. Yeah, that'll be interesting. I think there's a spot for Jalen for sure to make a big leap as long as he's healthy. Seth, I worry a little bit more about. Last year, didn't he play a little bit of point guard last year? Or he's supposed to be like kind of the third ball handler with Caleb and RJ, or take one of their spots and be the other one. So he had two on the floor at all time, and I didn't always feel comfortable with the ball in his hands. Like I said, his offense just wasn't there at all. So that'll be the big question mark: is did his offense come around? Because again, defense, he was getting praised for, but with his size, it's just not the same as a defensive player like Leaky was. So Jalen definitely. Seth, I have more reservations or questions about. I'd say is the way I'd put that. So um, yeah, if anybody else wants to throw out a question or a topic that we should talk about, I don't want to take up too much time, and especially I've kind of hit everything. So I haven't talked with Gil and Blake in a while. I probably should check in with them. Of course, I'd always love to get them back on the podcast, or I'll throw it out to my audience. Whether you're here live, the Nintendo Nerd Rev, and if you guys ever want to come on and kind of co-host or be on a podcast, we could definitely talk about that. But if there's anybody else out there listening that it's like, hey, I'd like to do it, but don't know how to do it, or um, don't have the time to do it all the time, just to be on a podcast once, or every once in a while, or something like that. As long as it works for our schedules, obviously, and uh, you know, seem like we align, and we'll have an entertaining podcast. I'd welcome that, but also, of course, would love to get Gil and Blake back on at some point. I'll have to hit them up here soon and see what they say, if maybe a preseason podcast or something like that. But I know Blake's really busy. Well, I mean, everybody is. That's why I haven't podcasted since April. So, again, I won't throw that excuse out there. But yeah, I don't know. I'll check here. I don't see any other questions coming in here. So we're going to kind of wrap it up there. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, thank you so much for coming back and being here and supporting the podcast. And yeah, like I said, share it. And most importantly, if you can, listen to support, and then obviously share it to other Tar Heel fans. That's the biggest thing you can do, and I would appreciate that. But we're gonna, yeah, like I said, probably try to do a couple in August. Maybe we'll do another one late. Maybe it's late September and then one in August, or we'll figure it out. But that's why it's important to be subscribed. If you really want to know the schedule ahead of time, hit me up, and I'll let you know ahead of time when I'm going to do it, so you're more likely to catch us live if that's what you want to do. So the Nintendo Nerd says he is willing in co-hosting. So we'll see. Maybe we can get the Nintendo Nerd in here. Definitely, we'll talk about it. Reach out to me. Um, oh, how should we reach out to you? I mean, anywhere. Twitter is maybe the easiest place at first. Just shoot me a DM on Twitter, but also whether it's Instagram. Um, Eva here on I don't know if there's a way to DM. I don't know that we did talk through it on YouTube, but if you message on YouTube and then we connect somewhere else, so we can talk through it privately a little bit, um, then we can maybe do that. But um, yeah, let's talk about that, and let's keep cheering on the football team here. You know, beat App State tomorrow. Hopefully that's happened already. If you're listening to this later, uh, and we'll move forward, hopefully with a great season, and hopefully the basketball team. Hopefully we get that connection to this team, and we're all excited. And I know we'll be excited by the time season gets here, but um, hopefully it'll be the same as in the past. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here. Again, thanks for being here. Make sure you subscribe to catch all of the podcasts. And until next time, go Heels.